What if I told you that Mercedes is not only winning, but is preparing the final blow to end the season from Miami? Because while everyone talks about what they have already done, within the paddock there is a much greater concern. What is about to arrive? A package of improvements that does not seek to recover ground, but to make it impossible for anyone to even catch up. The big question is, are we seeing the beginning of absolute dominance in Formula One? Or is there still someone capable of stopping Mercedes before it's too late? Mercedes has gone from being an unknown to becoming the absolute reference in Formula One, and the most impressive thing of all is the way in which it has done it. We are not talking about an isolated victory or a perfect weekend. We are talking about a dominance that has been repeated since the beginning of the season, with a superiority that has left its rivals completely exposed. Since the first race, the team has shown a level that not only makes a difference, but also redefines the competitive order of the entire grid, sending a clear signal. This year they are not here to compete. They are here to impose their law. What is most worrying within the paddock is not only the advantage in results, but the way in which Mercedes has built that advantage. His car has proven to be the most complete in practically all key areas: straight line speed, cornering stability, tire management, and consistency in long runs. While Ferrari and McLaren try to find answers and adjust their concepts, Mercedes has already passed that phase. They are not understanding the car, they are perfecting it. And that difference in approach is what really marks the distance we are seeing on the track, where they have even allowed themselves to manage races without having to take the maximum risk. But this is where it all gets even more disturbing. Because despite this evident dominance, Mercedes has not yet shown its definitive version. The team itself has recognized that the car has room for improvement, especially in a key aspect: balance in certain high-speed conditions. This detail, which might seem minor, is actually one of the few cracks in a car that is already the most competitive. And that is precisely where the package of improvements that will arrive in Miami comes in, designed not to add specific performance, but to eliminate that structural weakness that still limits the car's total potential. This move completely changes the narrative of the championship. Because we are not facing a team that needs to react, but rather one that is attacking from a position of advantage. Mercedes is not developing to reach anyone, it is developing so that no one can reach them. That is the key difference. And in a sport where tenths are everything, the fact that the dominant team continues to evolve with this level of aggressiveness is a direct threat to any title contender. In addition, there is a factor that cannot be ignored: the moment in which these improvements arrive. Miami is not just any race, it is the point where teams traditionally begin to define the real direction of the season. And Mercedes has chosen exactly that scenario to launch its technical offensive. It's not a coincidence, it's pure strategy. It's the perfect time to hit the table, consolidate your dominance, and force the rest to go into full chase mode. And meanwhile, their rivals face a much more complicated reality. Because reducing an already existing difference is difficult. But doing so when the leader continues to evolve is practically an impossible mission. Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull not only have to improve, they have to do it faster than Mercedes, something they have not proven capable of achieving so far. Therefore, this improvement package is not just another update. It's a message. A clear, direct, and forceful message to the entire grid. Mercedes has no intention of giving even a millimeter. And if someone wanted an opportunity to fight for the championship, Miami could be the point where that opportunity disappears completely. The problem for the rest of the grid is not just that Mercedes is winning, it's that they are understanding something that the others have not yet managed to decipher. And that something is directly related to the focus of this package of improvements that will come to Miami. Because we are not facing a simple typical aerodynamic evolution, we are facing a strategic correction of the car's DNA, a fine adjustment that can transform a dominant car into one that is practically untouchable. Mercedes has identified with surgical precision its only weak point: balance in certain cornering phases, especially in high-speed situations where the car does not always allow the drivers to extract maximum performance with total confidence. This detail, which in other teams would be a major problem, in Mercedes is simply the last obstacle before reaching perfection. And the most important thing is how they have decided to solve it, because they are not looking to simply add downforce, but rather to modify the behavior of the car from its base, adjusting both the setup and the new parts to achieve a much wider and more predictable performance window. This has enormous implications, because when a car goes from being fast to being easy to push to the limit, the jump in performance is not linear. It is exponential. Drivers can risk more, they can be more consistent, they can manage each phase of the race better. And that is where Mercedes can definitively break the championship, because they would not only have the fastest car, but also the most reliable in terms of behavior, eliminating errors, maximizing each lap and reducing any margin of opportunity for their rivals. Furthermore, this approach reveals something even more important. Mercedes is not reacting to problems, it is anticipating them. While other teams continue to introduce improvements to correct obvious errors, Mercedes is fine-tuning details that many have not even detected. That difference in the technical reading of the car is what separates a competitive team from a dominant one. And right now, Mercedes is operating on a completely different level. Miami in this context becomes a turning point, not just because of the package itself, but because of what it represents. If these improvements work as expected, the rest of the season could become an unanswered chase. Because from that moment on, any evolution of Ferrari, McLaren or Red Bull would have to surpass not only the current performance of Mercedes, but also this new optimized version of the car. And that raises the difficulty to an almost unattainable level. This is where the real message Mercedes is sending comes in. It's not about winning races, it's about closing the championship as soon as possible. Every improvement, every adjustment, every technical decision points in the same direction, eliminating uncertainty. Turn each weekend into a controlled scenario where the result depends solely on them. And if that happens in Miami, the championship could begin to be defined much sooner than anyone expected. Because when a dominant team eliminates its weaknesses, it is no longer vulnerable. And when it stops being vulnerable, it stops having real rivals. And this is where it all fits, because what Mercedes is building is not just a technical advantage, it is a psychological advantage that can finish breaking its rivals before we even reach the middle of the season. When one team dominates, the others still have a reference to aspire to. But when that same team continues to evolve while winning, what it generates is uncertainty, pressure, and above all, despair in the rest of the paddock. If Miami's package works as expected, the blow could be definitive. Not because they are going to win one more race, but because they could establish a difference that is impossible to close. From that moment on, each Grand Prix would stop being an opportunity for its rivals and would become a countdown. Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull would not only have to improve, they would have to take risks, change concepts, force developments that may even compromise their performance. And that's where Mercedes wins without having to run, by forcing others to make mistakes. Because that is the real key to this moment. Mercedes has reached stability before anyone else. While other teams are still searching for answers, they are already asking the right questions. And when you reach that point in Formula One, development stops being reactive and becomes completely strategic. Each improvement has a clear purpose, each decision is aligned with a greater objective, closing the championship as soon as possible. Miami then is not just a race, it is a declaration of intentions. It is the perfect scenario to confirm whether we are facing a specific domain or the beginning of an era. And everything points to the second. Because if Mercedes manages to eliminate that last detail in the balance of the car, if they manage to turn their car into a machine without weaknesses, the margin they already have could multiply silently but devastatingly. In this scenario, the championship stops depending on the fight on the track, and begins to depend on something much more difficult to change, the structural superiority of a team. And that's what Mercedes is building right now. They're not thinking about the next race, they're thinking about the whole season. So the big question is no longer whether Mercedes is the team to beat. That is already clear. The real question is much more uncomfortable for the rest. Is there anyone capable of reacting in time? Or will Miami be remembered as the exact point where Mercedes sentenced the championship? And in the end, it all comes down to one thing: the exact moment a team stops competing and starts dominating. Because that is precisely what we are seeing with Mercedes. It is not a streak, it is not a coincidence, it is not a strong start to the season. It is the construction of an advantage that can mark an entire era if no one manages to stop them in time. The package of improvements coming to Miami is not a simple evolution, it is a definitive statement. It is confirmation that Mercedes is not reacting to the competition, it is playing in another league, where every move is designed to eliminate any threat before it even appears. And that, in Formula One, is the most dangerous thing that can exist. A team that wins, while continuing to improve. Because if these improvements work as expected, history could change completely. What seems like a clear advantage today may become an insurmountable distance tomorrow. And at that point, the championship stops being an open battle, and becomes a chase without a destination for the rest. Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, they will all be forced to respond, but not from equality, but from pressure, from urgency, from the need to risk more than necessary, and that's where Mercedes ends up winning. not only on the track but in the mental, strategic and technical field. Because when you force your rivals to leave their zone of control, errors start to appear. And in a championship as demanding as Formula One, those mistakes are paid dearly. So the big question that all this leaves is not who is going to win the next race, but something much deeper. Are we seeing the start of a historic season, or the birth of a dominance that can mark the future of Formula One? Because if Miami confirms what Mercedes is preparing, it may be too late by the time the rest react. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.